So thank you so much for having me today, and thank you so much for your time. And as a number of cyber attacks, both cyber disruptions and cyber espionage has increased, the role to play for cyber defenders and also incident responders has become more crucial than ever. And the people who are watching this program right now, I really want to express my deepest gratitude, because you are the true heroes in international security and also international economy. And I'd like to talk about now why cybersecurity is so crucial for economic security in a bit. But also, I'd like to talk about now the growing burden on incident responders, because now we have to keep up with the growing number of cyber threats, and we also going through a massive stress. So I'd like to talk about how we should engage with government leadership, and also how should engage with industry leadership so that we can do better for our economic security, international security, and also our social welfare for incident responders. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the cyber threats to economic security, and also would like to talk about the implications of the ongoing war in Ukraine to Asia Pacific region from economic and national security perspectives. And also, I'd like to refer to stress and burnout amongst the incident responders and cyber defenders. And also, in the end, I'd like to talk about what kind of actions we should take. So I always start talking about statistics whenever I talk to business executives and the government leaderships. Now, why cybersecurity is so important from economic security perspectives, because in the end, it is all about numbers. So according to the World Bank, the global GDP amounts to almost 100 trillion US dollars in 2022. And cybersecurity ventures expects that global cybercrime cost to reach more than 10 trillion US dollars by 2025. It is almost 10% of global GDP. It means that it is bigger than any national GDP on this planet. Of course, this cybercrime costs not only include ransomware payments, but also lost opportunities or lower productivity caused by wiper attacks or ransomware attacks. So after I always give this number, the government leadership and the industry executives seems to understand more why they should care more about cybersecurity. So after Japan launched the world first positions as economic security minister in the world, Japan is leading the world on a policy to promote economic security, which includes cybersecurity. However, after Japan released its Economic Security Promotion Act last year, the document doesn't necessarily clearly define what economic security is. But in my understanding, economic security aims to protect countries' economic activities and citizen lives from various threats, including cyber attacks, and ensure economic stability, because economic stability is the foundations of any security, including cybersecurity. And again, cyber threats to economic security includes both espionage and disruptions or distractions, such as ransomware attacks and wiper attacks. So the Japanese Economic Security Promotion Act consists of 4 pillars to promote for economic security. And even though that the Japanese government doesn't necessarily explicitly express that these 4 pillars are definitely founded on cyber security, but actually economic security cannot be achieved without cyber security. And also it means that it cannot be achieved without your help as incident responders and also cyber defenders. So for example, the first pillar of the Japanese Economic Security Promotion Act is resilient supply chain of key products. And when you take a look at the ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline or the port of Nagoya in Japan last July, it showcases that even a financially motivated cyber criminal group can disrupt supply chain by a single attack. Also, the second pillar, the stable delivery of essential infrastructure services, such as port services, can be disrupted by a single ransomware attack. The Japanese Economic Security Promotion Act, the third pillar is the cutting-edge critical technology, such as artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. But again, without ensuring cybersecurity to protect our intellectual property or national security related intelligence, how can we ensure the stable research and development in any country? The fourth pillar of the legislation is non-disclosure of selected patents to protect intellectual property. But again, if cyber espionage can steal intellectual property information without that information becomes patented, then it's no use to make the selected patents non-disclosure treatment. So that is why cybersecurity is the foundation of economic security. And I think that many of our governments started to understand the crucialness of cybersecurity to our economic security after unfortunate major incidents. And I think one of the watershed moments came after the Colonial Pipeline was attacked by a ransomware attack in May 2021. It showcased that even a financially motivated criminal group can disrupt and even cause economic or national security crisis by disruptions to our supply chains through a single attack. And even the Asia Pacific regions faced a similar incident after the port of Nagoya in Japan was hit by a ransomware attack in July 2023. The port of Nagoya is Japan's largest port by total cargo throughput. But in Japan, although the airports are considered to be part of critical infrastructure services, but maritime ports are not categorized as part of critical infrastructure services as of today. So right now, Japan is going through discussions if maritime port should be categorized or considered or designated as part of critical infrastructure services. And interestingly enough, recently, the Financial Times indicated that maybe the ransomware attack on the port of Nagoya was not caused by a criminal group. It can be, the Financial Times indicated that the incident might have been caused by a state-sponsored actor. So that is why we, as a cyber defenders and also incident responders, should be mindful about the geopolitical tensions in these regions, as Mr. Klein indicated, and also emphasized the importance to take a balance between the understanding of technical issues, but also geopolitical situation. So what is the situation of ransomware threats in this region? So Proofpoint annually updates their statistics on ransomware damages. So according to their latest statistics came out a couple of months ago, the infection ratio in the United States was 89%. And in the United Kingdom, it was 62%. But what about the Asia Pacific regions? So it is between the 50 and 70%. So Japan, which I'm from, 68%. But in South Korea, the 48% of answered organizations said that 48% of their organizations were infected. However, when you ask if actually victims paid a ransom to ransomware attackers, the ratio is quite different. So Japan is actually the only country that the ratio to pay ransoms has been steadily increasing over the last few years. So in 2022, only 18% of victimized Japanese organizations have actually paid a ransom. However, in Australia, 90% of victimized organizations paid a ransom. So because ransomware attackers still go after not only major companies, but also small and medium-sized companies, as well as medical institutions, such as hospitals. So not only the incident responders, but also the government in each country needs to play a bigger role to help those small and medium-sized companies to make sure that they will be better equipped with cyber defenses and also resilience. And when you talk to business executives, sometimes you have to answer their inquiries. So should we pay a ransom? And of course, it is an ethical question to ask to help attackers by paying ransoms to get ready for future attacks. But also, when you engage with business executives, it is better to talk about economic impacts as well. So Sophos annually updates their statistics, and actually only 8% of victimized organizations that were able to recover all the data after they paid a ransom in 2021. And the ratio actually get decreased last year. Only 4% of victimized companies were able to recover all the data infected with the ransomware. So that is why it doesn't make economic sense to pay a ransoms. And also, if you pay a ransom to ransomware attackers, then you would be considered as an easy target and under pressures. And actually, according to Cyber Reason, 80% of victimized organizations that paid a ransom were hit by a ransomware attack or ransomware attacks. And most of those ransomware attacks came from the same attacker, because they already knew that that organization is an easy target to pay a ransom under the increased pressure. So this kind of knowledge should be equipped amongst the business leaders and also government leadership. And Object First recently released striking statistics from the United States. So this study was only done in the United States, but the 75% of surveyed customers in the United States said that they would be ready to shift to another competitor when they find out their company, their business partner was hit by a ransomware. So it means that almost 80% of your customers might switch from your organization if your organization is hit by a ransomware. So this gives you another reason why cybersecurity is so important for national economic security, but also organizational level of economic stability. And I also would like to talk about a little bit about generative artificial intelligence or generative AI and cybersecurity, because cyber attackers already have weaponized these new technologies to increasingly release phishing messages and also business email compromises. And we've already seen AI-enabled scam calls have skyrocketed. So according to McAfee or Trellix, 77% of victims of those AI-enabled scam calls actually lost their money. And more than a third of those victims say that they've lost over $1,000 US. So this is another threat to economic security. So how we should deal with this? So as the attackers have already started to use generative AI, we as cyber defenders and also incident responders should use generative AI to maximize our capabilities to defend ourselves and also economic security. According to that recent Inside the Mind of a Hacker report, incident responders and cyber defenders have already started to use generative AI because they found that generative AI technologies have increased the value of ethical hacking and security research. So they have already begun to use generative AI for automating their tasks, analyzing their data, identifying vulnerabilities, and validating findings. So if we use generative AI to remove noises to focus on the more important tasks then we can also decrease the burden on ourselves. So it is a good thing. And I also would like to introduce one of my amazing NTT colleagues in recent research. So he published a report called Detecting Phishing Sites Using ChatGPT in June 2023. And he used GPT-4 and GPT 3.5 to test 1,000 non-phishing and phishing sites to detect by using ChatGPT. And if you use the GPT-4, the accuracy ratio is actually amazing. He was able to prove that the GPT-4 gives you the detection accuracy over 98% to detect phishing or non-phishing sites. So I'd like to give you another quick summary of his research. So he actually took 3 steps to detect either phishing or non-phishing sites. So first, you would like to know if site uses social engineering analysis, like alarming messages, to give you a deadline to take certain actions. And it is a typical method to trick you to click something you are not supposed to click. And another indications of phishing sites is brand name extractions. So they try to use something similar to famous name of brand so that you mistakenly consider those sites as legitimate, even though they are not true. And the final step is to make sure to ask GPT-4 or GPT 3.5 to explain their train of thought, why they have concluded if this site is phishing or non-phishing site. So that is why the accuracy ratio is quite high. And also, I really hope that this kind of research will increase to make sure that the burden on our friends, incident responders and cyber defenders will be decreased. And so the second part of my talk is about the war in Ukraine and its implications to our region, Asia Pacific. So I was invited to participate in the Shangri-La Dialogue this June in Singapore. And the Shangri-La Dialogue is one of the major security conferences in the Asia Pacific or in the world. And until I went there, I really didn't understand how worsened the global tensions are over not only in Europe, but also in the Asia Pacific regions. And multiple defense ministers or prime ministers repeatedly expressed their concerns in this conference. They said something like, we can never take our peace and stability for granted after the war in Ukraine has occurred, such as U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. And this kind of concerns have been expressed not only by defense ministers, but also cybersecurity ministers or high-ranking government officials. For example, US DHS CISA director Jen Eastery gave a talk at an Aspen Institute event in June 2023. And she also expressed concerns over the tensions in the Asia Pacific regions. So in the United States, even before the war in Ukraine broke out, the US government started to work more closely with the industry to share cyber threat intelligence to better help critical infrastructure services from cyber attacks. And she said that the intelligence sharing with the critical infrastructure companies can serve as a model for the future crisis. So that is why that the cyber security people, both cyber defenders and incident responders, should keep paying attention to the global news on geopolitical tensions, as Mr. Klein already indicated during his fascinating opening remarks. So the next question to ask is, so have we already started to see any new cyber threats due to these geopolitical tensions? And we already started to see some indications. For example, Microsoft published their blog in May 2023, and they detected state-sponsored actors and have been targeting critical infrastructure services in Guam and the United States since mid-2021. Critical infrastructure services include communications, manufacturing, utility, transportation, constructions, maritime, and etc. So is this only happening in the United States? Maybe not. So the New York Times published a follow-up article in July 2023. And they said that the US government has been doing threat hunting operations in electricity, communications, and water supplies that support US bases in and outside the United States. The United States has some military bases in these regions too. And again, even if attackers is attacking only one single organization, doesn't necessarily mean that other organizations are safe from that cyber attack. If, because of the supply chain, the damages can cause domino effects through supply chains to cause national security or economic security crisis. So that is why the countries, especially with these geopolitical tensions is taking the place, should pay attention now what kind of new cyber threats are emerging from geopolitical tension. So the cyber defenders and incident responders unfortunately have to face an increasing number of cyber threats, including cyber disruptions and cyber espionage. And after the COVID-19 pandemic, it's a global trend to see the great resignations, not only in non-tech professionals, but even in among tech and cybersecurity professionals. And Gartner actually expects nearly half of cyber leaders to move to a different job by 2025. It is shocking. 50% of cybersecurity professionals are ready to move out. But as long as they stay in this community, it is a good thing and also healthy to rotate and seek their career. However, according to Gartner, 25% of those people are actually will have a totally different job or role due to work-related stressors. It is actually shocking. I'm really saddened to see these statistics because our friends are leaving this community because of the work-related stressors. So how about incident responders? So the VMware published a report on this issue is focusing on the incident responders. Again, almost 50% of incident responders say that they have experienced burnout or extreme stress over the past 12 months. And 69% say that stress and burnout have led them to consider their position. So not only general cyber defenders, but more specifically, even cyber incident responders started to consider more about job changes because of the burnout and extreme stress. The reason why I talked about ransomware attacks from economic security is because incident responders believe that the rise of ransomware attacks actually have exacerbated the stress and the psychological demands required to respond to cyber incidents. And if we are under the extreme stress or burnout, we cannot do well for our job. And it is also a threat to our economic security. And if any of you who are watching this program is business executives or government leaders, I sincerely request to consider these statistics to your heart, because cyber defenders and incident responders are the foundations of our economic security and also is the international security. And the good thing is that the incident responders in these regions are seeking mental health assistance more than the global average, such as Australia, India, and Japan. But we need to do a better job about providing not only mental health assistance, but also to try our best to alleviate the burden on incident responders. The British government has actually published a really great blog last year. So because the war in Ukraine is prolonged and the burden on incident responders and or cyber defenders has increased to keep up with not only the normal cyber threats, but also geopolitical tensions, the National Cybersecurity Center specifically asked business leaders to make sure that workloads are equally spread amongst company employees, not just on incident responders, to make sure that these incident responders and cyber defenders can take a break to recharge. I haven't seen any other governments have published similar blog or reports yet, but I think that the situation is the same, not only in Europe, but also in Asia Pacific, because we are facing increasing the number of cyber threats and also geopolitical tension. So what kind of actions we should take? So again, even a financially motivated cyber criminal activity can threaten economic security. So digital forensics and incident response, this is the key theme of this summit, is the foundations of economic security. And the incident responders are true heroes to our economic security and international security. Since attackers are already using new technologies such as generative AI, why not for defense? Cyber defenders should be able to equip ourselves with newest technologies to decrease the burden ourselves. Because as I already shared some real terrifying statistics, the increasing burden on incident responders have already caused them to consider about their career in cybersecurity community. And some of them are already ready to leave this community. So I'd like to ask for actions to take from the government and the industry leadership, but also from our friends, incident responders. So I know that you are already not so expert on technical issues, and you are really knowledgeable about the technologies of cyber attacks and cyber security. But also we need to acquire new skill sets to make sure that this issue is not only important in technical perspectives, but also from economic security and international security to translate for business executives, because they understand more about numbers than technical issues. So I always try to use statistics and visualizations such as heat map. For example, in the NTT group, our group CISOs use heat map to talk to our CEOs to make sure that they understand where specific cyber threats are in our cyber defense systems and where we need to go by taking what kind of actions with how much of budget. This kind of explanations is more easier to understand for business executives who are not necessarily savvy about technologies. And it also means that it's easier for us to get more budget or resources to help ourselves. And I also sincerely would like to ask the government leaders and business executives to help our incident responders. The number one reason why the cyber defenders and the incident responders to leave this community or leave their job is they are not thanked enough. And I know that this is not only true in cybersecurity community. Anybody deserves acknowledgement and gratitude, but incident responders do not necessarily get a thank you note from business executives. So if any of you who are watching this program, the business executives or government officials, it would be really grateful if you can send a little thank you note to your cybersecurity or IT teams to make sure that their work is critical for your business operations, and you really acknowledge their hard work. And also, please make sure to provide mental health support for your IT and cybersecurity team. I understand that you cannot increase the number of budget or incident responders overnight. But if you can provide at least an acknowledgement or thank you note to incident responders, then they will be more energized to face the cyber threats. And in the end, cybersecurity is the foundation of our daily lives, economic security, national security, and international security. Mr. Tilbury and Mr. Klein talked about the importance to take a balance between technical and geopolitical issues. And I think it is so true. And without the support each other between incident responders and executives, we cannot face this increasing number of threats from state-sponsored actors and cyber criminals. And I really appreciate SANS to launch this inaugural APAC DFIR summit and Japan to talk about both issues in high-level security and also technical issues. Thank you so much.